I'd like to ask the Environment Minister what advice he gives local authorities about the Hedge Cutting Code.
Will the Minister to reply?
Thank you, Mr. President. Following discussions at a recent meeting of the Manx Nature Conservation Forum, the Department wrote to all local authorities on the 16th of April 2019 to provide detailed advice on the appropriate maintenance of roadside hedges, sod banks and verges in locations where there are no road safety constraints. And in fact, I believe that we've done that on an annual basis. The advice included the wildlife and aesthetic benefits of these features and the appropriate management, including not cutting hedgerows in the bird nesting season and cutting sod banks and verges in September once flowers and seeds have set.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could the Minister confirm that, just to make sure that we've got everybody, that landowners as well are reminded of this code, especially considering that their responsibilities under the Countryside Care Scheme?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, most of the verge cutting is carried out by local authorities or indeed the DOI. There are some hedgerows that are maintained, or a lot of hedgerows that are maintained by farmers, and there are certain measures in place with regard to ADS and penalties if they break the codes, and there are various codes with regard to the seasonality of cutting taking place.
Supplementary, Mr. Henderson.
Can the Minister advise what action his department would take, or advisory, 2 points, what advisory action has the Minister's department taken, and what action would he take if he found that another government department was in breach of the best practice of the Hedge Code Cutting Practice Guide?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are obviously guidelines, but I can say that my department works with the Department of Infrastructure to ensure that they work with the Hedge Cutting Code and cut in season, apart from safety aspects that obviously come up with regard to hedgerows as they grow very fast, particularly at this time of year. I have been provided by Department of Environment some advice and explanations with regard to their hedge cutting over the last short while, and particularly in the run-up to the TT. It's too long to reiterate in this court this morning, but I'm very happy to share that with members.
Mr. Shimmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the Minister agree that this must not be seen as a licence for inaction on hedges and verges, which would create safety issues for vulnerable road users? Parents in my constituency can be reluctant to let their children walk to school due to overhanging hedges on narrow pavements and busy roads. And similarly, cyclists and walkers are forced out into the middle of the road because verges and hedges have not been cut back. So would the Minister concur that while sensitivity should be applied, hedges and verges should not be allowed to overhang the tarmac to reduce the risk of death and serious injury to vulnerable road users?
Reply, sir.
Sit on the fence.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Honourable Member is correct, and that is why there are exceptions to the Hedge Cutting Code where safety and expeditious use of the roads is an issue. As I said earlier, I will share the communication from DOI, which gives a good explanation of how they assess and what to cut, when and how, and road safety is obviously a key consideration.
Final supplementary, Mr. Henderson.
Would the Taoiseach concur with me that in my recent circular to all Tynwell members that I have indeed acknowledged road safety issues and acknowledge that in certain places that our hedgerows, as valuable as they are, I have to concede that they do need trimming for public health reasons, but in a common sense way. Would he further concur with me that 90% or so of the Isle of Man is developed either agriculturally or urbanised, which places even greater emphasis on the biodiversity importance of our hedgerows, and that they should be treated in a common sense, sympathetic way going forward?
Reply, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can but concur with what you said there, and the way in which the activities take place is important, and what has its need is road safety. I would add that the Isle of Man is very lucky in as much that with our small fields and numerous hedgerows and sod hedges and walls, we probably have more hedges per square kilometre than anywhere in the United Kingdom. Our ADS scheme and the way we operate our agricultural practices continues to preserve that, and we value that, and that's why our countryside looks as nice as it is, and we are as biodiverse, and we are able to gain biosphere status.